Hey everyone, on the heels of Mobile World Congress, I'm chatting with one of my favorites at Spirent. Stephen Douglas, how are you?
I'm doing very well, Evan. Great to be here.
Well, good to have you. So much going on. I hope you had a good week at MWC. We're just commiserating on the number of step counts we each had. So countdown to next year. But in the meantime, you've been busy at Spirent. Before that, maybe introduce yourself, your mission within the team, and what is Spirent these days? How do you describe yourself to those who may not be familiar?
Yeah, I'm Steve Douglas. I head up market strategy for Spirent. So Spirent's one of the big test automation insurance companies for the ICT sector. Pretty much we test everything from devices, network equipment, networks, big data centers, and we also look to help assure them, make sure they operationally work live. I look after strategy for the organization, what we're sort of doing in the in the medium term. And I also sit on a number of independent advisory boards, also trying to guide strategic direction in the telecom sector.
Oh, it's great to have you here. We're diving into our topic of the day, which is an amazing piece of analysis that you launched on the 6th, your annual report on state of 5G based on 415 global engagements during 2024, massive data set.
Mhm.
So let's start. What are some of the key takeaways, top level, and what do your findings tell you about the state and focus of the industry this year and even beyond?
Yeah, I mean, I think the beauty about being a test and assurance company, Evan, is that we sort of get to see the future. Most people test either because they're about to launch something or they're in a research stage for something that's slightly coming further down the line. So I think the key takeaway is that 5G's, it's reached the half time mark. It's 5 years in from its initial sort of
Mm,
launches. And we sort of see three key takeaways that we highlight in the report from across that data set. I think the number one sort of takeaway is around the number of operators now that are focusing and moving to the next phase of 5G, which is standalone and the 5G advanced feature sets and capabilities. I mean, we engaged with over 50 customers last year who were testing the new architecture. Over 30 of those were operators. So I think that bodes well that you're going to see a slew of commercial launches this year, but also probably scale outs on a national level in many markets as well. I think the second sort of key takeaway was really a sort of the increased focus we started to see on security and resilience. Sadly, over the last sort of 12 to 18 months, we have seen quite a number of attacks on networks, not only telecom networks, we're seeing it in the financial services. Any mission critical industry seems to be coming under a cyber threat these days. And there was a real heightened focus on, obviously, as you move to the new architecture with 5G standalone, it's all about cloud and IT, heightened risk. How can you be more secure? How can you move from a traditional protect and detect focus
mm.
to sort of now incorporate respond and recover and become that more resilient? And that was a big focus area. And of course, the third sort of key takeaway in the report is, well, it's all about monetization. These networks are there to make money, as well as they are for to delight you and me as with services. And we saw two sort of key directions there. A lot of operators focusing on customer experience and also preparing for new advanced services towards the enterprise or the B2B sector. As for customer experience, it was really all around consumer fixed wireless access. It's been highly successful to date. It's become a very lucrative service. Many operators want to expand on that, make sure they don't lose subscribers. And of course, one of the big challenges at the moment is that the 5G connectivity coming to the home might be good, but what happens when it's inside the home and it translates into a Wi-Fi service connecting maybe five or six people in your house, all heavy users, in their busy hour at night. So a lot of focus has been on what type of experience in home is, and a lot of focus has been on also that parallel relationship with how does it impact mobility subscribers who are maybe sharing the same capacity of a cell site at the same time. As for the new services, Evan, I think the big testing sort of areas that we anticipate you're going to see big launches this year coming really around sort of four key areas. RedCap, which is reduced capability for IoT. There's a big focus on having these sort of more powerful but sort of lower energy, lower usage devices for e-health, for wearables and wellness applications, but also for smart grids and smart cities. It was a big focus area of testing. In the private network sphere, it was very much around security slices, providing differentiated types of security for how that their private environment can be made secure, integrated into their own IT security. lots of mission critical communication testing. A lot of our first responders, emergency services, our railway networks today, they use a very older versions of cellular or old Tetra technologies. The ambition now is to use 5G to combine voice with video, data, proximity, and location, so our emergency services can be more efficient. And also, the last one was really around the space and the air economy. A big focus here. We started to see in the testing around how satellites can provide direct to device connectivity to our current smartphones, but also how in the lower altitudes, drones can be flown beyond visual line of sight using
Mm.
the 5G cell towers as a mechanism for command and control. So you could fly them at longer distances, enabling sort of fleet and logistics supply chain. So lots of interesting areas we anticipate for towards monetization coming through this new 5G standalone and advanced sets of capabilities.
Wow, that's a lot to unpack. I better get my reading glasses on for that as part of the report. But the other thing that was generating a lot of buzz at MWC was 5G Advanced. Many see it as a platform to kind of unlock new revenue streams, revenue growth. What are you hearing?
Yeah, some similar things. I mean, it maybe, didn't garner the same noise as maybe AI did, which was, obviously
Mm.
was everywhere. But I think a lot of people in the industry see this or would argue this is the true version of 5G that was really promised sort of 5, 6 years ago in the marketing. It's bringing together, the capabilities for enterprise, not just consumer. And it's based on the 3GPP's Release 18 standard or specifications as the first part of it. And it's really about three key things. It's really about how do you provide enhanced performance on the 5G network to serve enterprises? How do we introduce artificial intelligence into the 5G system to make the actual networks become more efficient, more agile? And also, how do we add specific capabilities to target different industry verticals, like smart cities, like smart grids, like the automotive industry, areas like ultra reliable latency, capabilities of providing higher capacities on the uplink, so not everything's just being sent down to the device, but it's more about coming back up into the network. I think there's two key capabilities that the industry was talking about a lot this week at MWC. One was around that reduced capability for IoT devices, and the other one's something called L4S, which was really about reducing network latency and packet loss for these mission
Mm.
critical industries, which need determinism for many of the things like robotics, for the types of activity that the automotive industry needs. So I think we're on the cusp now with 5G advanced of that sort of unlocking. I think the value for the enterprise is not just for the consumer with the 5G system.
Wow, that's super, really exciting. You mentioned AI, and there's growing, convergence intersection between what's happening in AI and what's happening on the telecom network, especially at the edge. But what are you seeing there in terms of reality and how this is evolving and how fast it's moving?
Yeah, I mean, there's a bit of, you would say, AI within sort of the telco domain has been there for quite a while in some form or another. Usually it's embedded in somewhere as machine learning applications over the last number of years. But I think there's two key directions, Evan, that we're seeing come to the fore at the moment. The first is networks enhanced by AI, and the other direction is networks being built to support AI. And the investment is going in both directions. Regarding that first one, networks enhanced for AI, this is where you're seeing many of the capabilities networks, like the security gateways, the radio equipment, are embedding AI capabilities in them to make them either more agile, more efficient, or to optimize how they perform. Take security gateways for an example. Today, many of them are adding AI to enhance, to detect security attacks earlier, to provide mechanisms to help them configure policy faster. While in the radio networks, you're seeing AI being used to optimize energy efficiency across, what is a highly costly piece of your network infrastructure. On the other side of the coin, it's really those networks being built for AI. And here you're really seeing the service providers realize that AI traffic is very different to the traditional traffic that comes onto their networks. And they're looking at ways of optimizing their current sort of both their wireless and their wireline or the infrastructure to actually support that traffic and its behavior. So you can meet the various different requirements and performance requirements for AI applications and services. But you're also seeing, which I think is quite interesting, is this realization that that network for AI could be monetized. It could be sold as a service, network as a service, to offer and support some of the new capabilities like sovereign AI for government or national purposes, and also for multi-tenanted AI towards small, medium-sized enterprises to sort of manage that networking and hosting and even break out to the relevant large language models that are needed. So those are the dimensions we're seeing sort of today within both those networks enhanced with AI and networks for AI.
Yeah, exactly. And what does it mean exactly for the test and assurance industry, of which you're leader around embracing AI? I mean, what sort of requirements do you have to support your telecom and data center customers? How are they using Spirent in particular?
Yeah, I mean, we look at it really in two dimensions. I mean, we're trying to help use AI to help solve some of the fundamental adoption challenges that our customers have as they look to adopt AI, whether that's trust, security, privacy, and cost. So, for example,
Mm,
around trust and security, it's about continuously testing and validating that AI inference is the efficacy of it. Is it delivering a relevant outcome that you can trust? Is the security catching the erroneous attack on it? As for privacy, it's about leveraging synthetic test data. One of the big challenges with training today is getting access to data which is private. So if you don't have access to lots of private information, what if, in addition to what you've got, you use synthetic test data, which emulates or replicates real information to actually feed and start to train those models? And the other is really just around cost as well. How we're helping them sort of try to validate the actual networking fabrics that are interconnecting the GPUs that are really the heart behind AI today. Those GPUs today, in terms of if the performance of the network is poor and it creates latency or losslessness in it, it can actually impact the efficiencies of the GPUs, meaning that they can sit
mm.
idle for 30% of the time, which is a huge cost, considering the expenditure that they've had to build out on them. And of course, the other dimension we're looking at it is using it ourselves in our test tools. How do we use AI ourselves in terms of using agents and assistants to help us create dynamically new test cases to do root cause analysis and all the test results? How we can create our own large language models for test and assurance in terms of, say, video quality scores or in terms of alarm prioritization in your networks, and also how we can use it when we're monitoring your networks as well, in terms of how we can use AI to identify anomalies early or fault isolations and predictions. So it's really across those two key dimensions, helping our customers deal with the challenges of adopting AI and then utilizing AI ourselves in our tools for greater agility and greater value to our end users.
Brilliant. So you talked previously about AR glasses, smart glasses becoming a major opportunity, a disruptor of the status quo, device being the smartphone, and even a revenue driver. And I had the unique opportunity at MWC to use my Meta smart glasses on a dedicated network slice for live streaming, and it was really amazing, the quality of service. But where are we on the big picture journey? What do you think the opportunity is for this new form factor?
I personally, I think this is the disruptor, like maybe the original iPhone or the iPad, even when
Mm,
it came along. We've been stuck with the smartphone form factor since that first wave of Apple devices, and it hasn't really evolved that much. Yes, we have better screens, better processors, better cameras, but the form factor hasn't really changed. I think glasses are the opportunity. It doesn't have to be the full immersive experience like a virtual reality headset. The beauty is that that concept of these types of spectacles I'm wearing today is becoming more and more real. I mean, if you were at Barcelona last week at the event, you'd have seen hundreds of versions that are becoming available later this year. You're starting to see the capabilities embedded easily now into the legs of the glasses in terms of the processing chips, in terms of using your smartphone being tethered to it. So the smartphone becomes the edge processing device for it, new
mm.
types of lenses to provide the overlay of information. So our anticipation and what we're seeing from the testing domain is you're going to see the first wave of these, I would say, quite impressive AR with AI enablement in them glasses coming to the market later this year and into next year. And the beauty of it is, spectacle wearers like myself, Evan, there's over 2 billion
Mhm.
of us out there today. So there's a pretty already adoptable market for it before you even move into everybody else who would be willing to have another form factor. And it doesn't necessarily replace there you go. It doesn't necessarily replace the smartphone. It complements it. But this could be quite lucrative for the whole industry, which hasn't really seen another form factor, which could have a mass market adoption event like this in a while. So look out for that, I would say, over the next 18 months.
Yeah, and I would say glasses are the one form factor, even sunglasses for those who aren't challenged with, 2020 vision. These are natural accessories, so it really is an exciting time. Um, I guess in terms of what's next, any other predictions from your crystal ball? What are you excited about, short term and long term, in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, short term, obviously, it's AI coming into the networks. I think that is going to revolutionize how our networks operate, how we optimize them, how they behave and perform. But I think sort of going out slightly longer term, if I'm crystal ball gazing, I think it's actually the combination of quantum compute and
Mm.
AI um, is the next big stepping stone, and that's going to lead, in my own view, in about 15 years' time, to something called neuromorphic computing. um, I think you're going to see that in three waves. I think you're going to see quantum computing will absolutely accelerate AI because it can help optimize some of the big complex calculations, the neural network training, the hyperparameter tuning, all the stuff that's actually really difficult and costly to do in the current sort of AI large language models and architectures we're building today. On the other hand, I think AI is going to solve the quantum challenge. The big challenge with quantum computing is around error correction. How do you optimize quantum algorithms? How do you manage noisy qubits run more efficiently? AI wrapped around quantum solves that. So I think this is the ultimate complementary technologies which are going to come together over the next few years. And you're going to see more and more of our networks and our computing being built around that. And of course, the beauty of that there, once that starts to take off, give that 10 years down the line, 10, 15 years, that fusion of quantum and AI is going to lead to something called neuromorphic computing, basically creating brain inspired systems. So we're going to move to what I would call the true uh, human neuron orientated networks. Driven by that combination of AI and quantum. And that's just simply going to change the way the world operates and works at that stage. And I think we're on the stepping stone for that now. This early stage of AI into quantum, then the marriage of them together is going to unlock something absolutely revolutionary in probably the next 15 years.
Oh, for sure. Well, I can't wait to be part of it. Speaking of which, as a fellow tech geek, any favorite takeaways in terms of MWC, new devices, new apps, other themes? From my standpoint, fascinating all the satellite activity and interest. And I found a lot of the cool navigation apps, including the MWC app, you could actually use to really move around the event and know exactly where you are, what direction you're walking, and they really up their game there. But what were some of your favorite takeaways
Yeah,
from the show?
there was a and maybe this is maybe because I'm in the test business, I go down into slightly into the weeds a little bit rather than the end applications. There was quite a number of companies displaying new types of location accuracy, which I just thought
Mm,
is game changing. I mean, one of the big challenges we've always had as Brown is the more accurate you can define location, the more actually applications that you can unlock. And some of the capabilities that were on display, combining basically sensor fusion, satellites with lots of other sensors and radio technologies to provide incredibly accurate location. And you can imagine how this could be used on factory floors, within any design
mm.
processes, with even how we shop when we're out about in a city. It could be revolutionary. And I really like that we're getting down to that level of exceptionally precise location, indoor and outdoor, which I think will be a massive game changer.
It will indeed. Yeah, something for consumers and technologists alike. What are you looking forward to the next weeks and months? What's on your radar? I know you're traveling a lot around the world, but what's on your agenda?
Uh, a big focus at the moment is obviously in the data centers.
Mm,
This is the I suppose the heartbeat behind AI today. A lot of the big data centers we work with today are re-architecting their designs to support AI coming into it. It's a radical different architecture for them in terms of the traditional sort of high performance compute they've been doing. So we're focusing quite a bit of that. We're working with them, speaking at quite a number of shows around that, really around the networking behind it, Evan, because I think this is the key topic area. A lot of focus goes to obviously, the large GPU cluster themselves, rightly so, the cooling technologies that are going to be required around that. But actually, to drive the value of all that, their architecture, it's actually the networking fabric that connects GPU to GPU, cluster to cluster, server to server, data center to data center. Without that optimally running, it breaks many of the value that AI and the large training can produce. So we're doing quite a big focus on that. And the other one is around cybersecurity. I think you're going to see a lot more around quantum and
Mm.
post-quantum cryptography. Now, quantum, so it is still a few years away in terms of when you're going to see sort of commercial quantum computers, but it is moving fast. The problem for us as an industry is that large state-sponsored hackers and large criminal gangs, well, they've identified the opportunity is to steal the data now, knowing that in a few years' time they'll have availability of quantum computers to basically hack it or crack it. So harvest now, decrypt later is becoming a mantra in their industry, and we've got to be prepared to protect ourselves today. And thankfully, many government bodies and big security institutes are putting out new ways to do post quantum encryption and cryptography. The challenge is how do we get our networks, whether they be in telecom, whether they be in banking and finance, to gradually adopt that, because it's not simply an overnight software upgrade. These are quite a complex process to prioritize where I need to upgrade, how do I upgrade, and there's even the relevant equipment in the market from the security suppliers available and proven today to support it. So expect a lot of focus around that as well.
Yeah, lots of big questions, lots of work to do. Thanks so much, Steve, for joining, and congratulations on all this success. And nice to see we survived our 15,000 steps a day, fully recovered. So until next year, take care.
Thanks, Adam.